Something's about to open. Well, hello Orchid Maniacs. As you can see, this wonderful plant has opened its bloom. Now the second one is starting to open as well, and I think I will continue this video when both of them open. But for now, let's see this beautiful plant. Now I'm really happy about the progress this year, because last year I only had one bloom from two plants that I had, and the second plant didn't bloom at all. Now this time I have two blooms on one plant, and I'm gonna have two blooms on the other one as well, hopefully. And the plant itself grew much bigger than last year, and much taller, and it has longer distances between the leaves, and the flower spike is much taller. The bloom size is the same. It was like that last year as well, so that didn't change. But I'm a little bit concerned about one thing that I've noticed. Well, I'm not concerned about those spots, but I'm more concerned about the color of the leaves. They do look quite pale to me, and I'm not exactly sure why, but it might be that I'm slightly underfeeding these plants, because my fertilization schedule is kind of sporadic this year. But well, I really need to improve on that, because as you know, plants like these, they have a short growth period, and they need to accumulate enough energy to grow additional corms, and they store their energy in those corms for all winter. So I really need to improve on my fertilization schedule. But yeah, I'm gonna try to film the second bloom when it opens, so hopefully I'll see you then, and I'm gonna continue this video. And as you can see, both of them are open right now. This is the second bloom. It's a little bit smaller than the first one, and a little twisted. But they actually opened quite quickly, and I couldn't film it. I've just noticed when the lips started to open up a little bit. Well, last year they only bloomed for 1 week, and I think it was because the plants were not very strong, and the weather wasn't very good that summer. This summer is much better. Well, it's very windy, which is quite unusual, but still it's much warmer and not so rainy as it was last year. So I think these plants like it. And the second plant is slowly growing its buds, but they still have a long way to go. Now I get a lot of questions about their care, and I've actually made a video last year, and I tried to talk about this very briefly, but I'm gonna try to make it more clear right now. I know that there isn't a lot of information on the internet about them, but if you want to know more about these plants, you should definitely find an article about them written by Botany Boy. I actually do pretty much everything he wrote about, and he's actually got a a YouTube channel as well, but I don't think he talks about Habenarias in there. At least I haven't found a video. But you should check him out as well. Anyway, because he has a lot of good videos about orchids in their natural habitat. And there is also another YouTube channel that I found useful. It's by Dallas Church, and I'm gonna put all the links in the description of this video, so you can check them out. Well, this channel, he grew some Habenarias last year and a year before, and I think he has some this year as well, but he didn't put any videos lately, so I don't know how he's doing now. But last year he made a really good series of updates on his Habenaria radiata, and I found it very useful because I could use it as a reference for my own plants, and I could compare the growth and the speed of growth. And when you don't know the plant, you don't know what the flower spike looks like when it's just starting to grow and everything else, so it is quite useful for me. So you can check this out yourself. Now, as I said, I try to follow this article by Botany Boy, and well, he writes that Habenarias grow in wetlands and grassy wetlands in China and Japan and Korea. So what does it mean for you? Well, that means that this plant really likes water and it needs to be constantly moist. And since it grows in kind of swampy conditions, it probably likes some acidic media as well. And I know that some people grow the plants in peat, some people grow them in Canuma or Kadama even. Well, I don't have an access to Canuma. I could get Kadama, but since I have peat and it's much cheaper, I've decided to use that. And as you can see, this is a mix. I've used peat and perlite. The peat I use is actually completely natural, it's not neutralized like the peat they put in various potting soils is actually neutralized, so it's not as acidic as this one. This one is completely natural. So now the thing to remember is that dry peat is very dusty and it's very difficult to moisten at first. But as soon as you start watering it thoroughly, it gets really wet and it keeps moisture for a long time, so which is quite good for this plant. But you have to remember that it doesn't like to stay in a puddle of water like carnivorous plants, for example. So you cannot keep it in a tray full of water all the time. Now, well, let's talk about summer, since it's summer now. This plant needs to be evenly moist. So in summer I usually water it every day. If it's really hot, I water it even twice a day, or even three times if I see that the media is drying out. Right now it's quite moist, but I haven't watered it yet, so I'm going to water it anyway. What else about waterings? So yeah, I water it every day. I fertilize it about once every 2 weeks with quarter strength fertilizer that I normally use. I'll actually use full strength for heavy feeders, half strength for things like Masdevallias, and quarter strength for this plant. And you have to remember that you have to feed this plant because it grows in a media that doesn't contain all that many nutrients, and plant, like any other living thing, needs to eat something. So if you would not feed it, it will slowly die. It might last for a season or two, but it will not grow any new corms, and it will, or even if it does, the new corms will be smaller each year, and you will not have this plant for very long. So you do have to feed, but you have to remember that they are quite sensitive to fertilizer, so you have to feed low quantities. Now, as soon as they start blooming, I reduce the fertilizing and, well, feed them maybe every 3 weeks or even less. And actually this year it bloomed much sooner, much earlier than the previous year, so I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do, because last year it bloomed and then the temperature dropped quite significantly, so the autumn started and it naturally started to die back. So I could reduce both feeding and watering at the same time. And this year I'm probably gonna continue to water but reduce the feeding. So when temperatures start getting much lower, especially at night, the plant slows down quite significantly and it kind of stops growing. And when temperatures really get low, the leaves start turning yellow and brown and really dying back. So when this happens, you really have to reduce water to minimum or even stop watering altogether, because when the part of the plant above ground dies, there is nothing that needs water anymore. So you have to let it dry out naturally and let the media dry out naturally, so that the corms that stay in the media do not rot and die. So basically I wait till nighttime temperatures get close to 0 degrees Celsius, or, well, I usually don't wait that long. I mean, usually I've only had it for one winter, but last year I didn't wait that long. I waited for nighttime temperatures to get to 4 degrees Celsius, and I just took the whole pot from here and put it in the garage. And I've kept it all winter there with the corm still in the media, and I didn't water it at all. I've only watered maybe once in the whole winter, but probably a teaspoon of water, and only because we had a really excuse me, we had a really cold few weeks, like temperature dropping below minus 20, and I had to put the heater in the garage so that all the plants I had there wouldn't get too cold. So, and the heater wasn't really temperature on the heater wasn't set correctly, so it got a little bit warmer than it should. It got to about 15 degrees Celsius. So I've actually took some snow from the outside and put on top of the spot. So it really wasn't a lot of water, and just enough to moisten the media a little bit, because you don't want those corms to be wet so they don't rot, but you also don't want them to get too dry and shrivel up. So right, when the spring came, I've actually made another video about it, so if you go back in my channel and you can find it. When the spring came, I took them out of the pot, and actually I think that's where Kanuma and Akudama and similar medias have an advantage compared to peat media, is when you have to find those corms in the soil. It's really difficult with the peat media because they are quite small. They're about peanut sized and they're brown, so when you dig through the media you can't really tell which parts are media and which are corms. So you have to be really careful and find them all. So I've made a new mix this year. and I planted them. So when I repotted them into the new mix, I put them in a warm and sunny location. Of course, you have to keep them away from the sun for a while, just make them shaded a little bit. But when they start growing, you can start increase the watering and give them more sun. Actually, they are standing in full sun right now, and this is a southwestern exposure, so they get sun from about midday to 5 or 6 p.m. Okay, and I've actually started watering them very little at first because they weren't growing yet, and just to keep media a little bit moist but not wet. And when I saw that they were poking from the media already, when they started leafing and they started growing really fast, I've started watering them every day like normally. So, well, I guess that's all about the care that I can think of. Well, the key points with these plants, you have to remember that they need to be wet but not soggy in summer, and dry but not totally dried out in winter. So, and they have to be cool in winter as well, because they grow in conditions where they go dormant in winter. And you have to feed them as well, because no living creature can survive without food. So let's enjoy these blooms for the very last time. And thank you all for watching. And goodbye.